Okay, you need to hear this because things just went absolutely nuclear in maybe the biggest celebrity case happening right now. Sean Diddy Combs facing those federal charges just days, literally days before his trial was supposed to start.
Yeah.
He looked the government square in the eye and said no to their plea deal.
That's it. He formally rejected it in court, pleaded not guilty to everything.
And we're talking the really serious stuff, right? Sex trafficking, racketeering.
The whole list.
Yeah.
The deal would have meant admitting to some of that, apparently, but nope. It's full steam ahead for the trial now.
And this isn't small stakes. I mean, if he's convicted federally, we're talking potential life in prison.
It's absolutely huge. Life.
So that's what we're diving into. We're cracking open all the info you shared, the court doc snippets, the reports, everything to really get a handle on who's getting dragged into this mess, what's actually being said, and like what it all means as this massive trial kicks off.
Right. Think of this as the quick guide through the chaos.
Okay, so first up, the trial status. He was in federal court, rejected the deal.
Yep. Face the judge. Reports say he was asked straight up if he was refusing the deal.
And he said,
"Yes, I do, Your Honor." Clear as day. Apparently wearing like a baggy jail uniform.
wow. Okay, so refusing that deal means this trial is definitely happening. And soon?
No turning back now. And yeah, facing that potential life sentence if the jury finds him guilty.
What's kind of blowing my mind from the material is just the sheer number of people potentially involved. Like, reports are saying over 100 names might get mentioned during this trial.
100, yeah. It's a staggering number. Over 100 individuals.
Okay, hold on. 100 names. Like, who are we talking about? Is it just random people or?
Not random at all, according to these reports. We're talking CEOs, big music industry execs. Get this, even members of the British royal family are supposedly on the list of names that might come up.
Okay, stop. Royals. Seriously. My brain just short-circuited.
I know. It sounds wild, but that's what's being reported.
Of course, the internet's having a field day with this already, trying to connect every celebrity under the sun to Diddy. And then the jury selection. That got weird, too.
Oh, yeah. Potential jurors were shown this list, right? Had names like Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, Kanye West.
Right.
But, and this is really important, the reports are clear, just because their names were on the list doesn't mean they're accused of anything in this case.
Okay, good clarification. So why show the names then?
It was basically to see if any potential juror knew these people personally or had strong feelings about them that might stop them from being impartial if those names came up in testimony.
Gotcha. But the lawyers didn't say why those specific names might come up.
Nope. Which naturally just fuels more speculation. Total rumor mill fuel.
Exactly. And speaking of rumors, you see all that chatter online, people saying big names like J-Lo, Oprah, Ellen have like fled the country.
Yeah, that's out there. Whether it's true or not, who knows, but it definitely shows this feeling of people wanting distance. Major distance.
Okay, let's focus on the core stuff. The accusations, the witnesses. It seems pretty obvious from the material that Cassie Ventura's lawsuit was kind of the spark that lit this whole federal fire.
His former girlfriend, Cassie.
Right.
Her suit landed last year, settled incredibly fast, like one day.
Super fast. But settling didn't make it go away, clearly. Sounds like it actually triggered the feds to dig deeper.
And the details in her lawsuit, the ones highlighted everywhere, they're really disturbing. Claims she was groomed, started seeing him when she was just 19. He was almost 40.
Yeah, and allegations of serious abuse, total control over her life, who she talked to, her job, even what she ate, what she wore, just complete domination.
It goes further, too. Reports mention forced drug use pills, alcohol, mushrooms. The claim is it was to mess up her mind, make her easier to control. The picture painted is just gradual takeover, every part of her life.
Yeah.
And threats, threatening to cut her off financially, professionally, if she didn't comply. Brutal stuff alleged.
So Cassie's civil suit kicked things off, but now we're seeing actual witnesses reportedly testifying in the current legal process, like Dawn Richard from Danity Kane.
Yeah, Dawn Richard. Diddy put that group together on MTV's Making the Band, so she was right there in his circle.
And her reported testimony sounds incredibly graphic, saying she saw Diddy abuse Cassie multiple times.
Multiple times, yes. She reportedly described a specific incident back in 2010, restaurant in West Hollywood. Said Diddy punched Cassie in the stomach during an argument. Said Cassie just doubled over and left.
Punched her in the stomach. And who else was supposedly there? That's a key detail.
According to Dawn Richards' testimony. Yeah, big names allegedly present. Usher, Neo, Jimmy Iovine, even Daddy Kane.
Wow. Usher. Okay.
Yeah.
Because Cassie's own testimony reportedly mentioned Usher seeing things and helping Diddy hide tracks. But Don Richard specifically puts him there for the alleged punch.
Right. And Richard apparently described another incident right after that in a car leaving the restaurant. Testified Diddy grabbed Cassie, slapped her across the mouth, told her to shut up. Said the whole car went silent.
Just awful. And there was another one, right? At his house with eggs.
Yeah, the skillet incident. 2009, LA home. Don Richard testified Diddy asked where his phone was, then allegedly hit Cassie with a skillet full of eggs.
Oh my God.
Threw her down, tried to kick her. She curled up. Then he allegedly grabbed her by the neck, dragged her upstairs, and then she heard glass breaking. Said she was terrified. For Cassie and for herself.
And Don Richard has her own lawsuit against him too, right? Separate from this.
He does. Filed last year. Alleging really terrible working conditions for years. Groping, assault, false imprisonment. Even claims he'd hold meetings in just his underwear, despite her saying she was uncomfortable.
Okay, so former partners, former employees.
Yeah.
But the material also mentioned another witness, a male escort.
That's right. Took the stand, reportedly. Also testified he saw Diddy physically assault Cassie.
Yeah.
But he added something else explosive. Claimed Diddy tried to bribe a hotel security guard. Like, offered a huge amount of cash.
Yeah.
$50,000.
Bribe him for what? To get rid of evidence?
Presumably.
Yeah.
Evidence that everyone assumes is that awful surveillance video. The one showing Diddy attacking Cassie in that hotel hallway.
The one that finally leaked. Right.
Exactly. And then, get this, the reports say this male escort, the one who apparently gave tapes to the feds and testified, has now disappeared.
Disappeared, like vanished.
That's the report.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Man. Okay, let's zoom out a bit because this trial is like pulling in so many other famous people, even indirectly. We mentioned Usher potentially witnessing that restaurant thing.
Yeah.
And he was Diddy's protege, right?
Deep connection there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Diddy basically launched his later career, so that dynamic is definitely getting looked at.
And then Justin Bieber. Man, the internet went crazy over those old clips, didn't it? Diddy hanging out with a super young Justin.
Yeah. And the reports mentioned allegations that Diddy took Bieber under his wing when he was like 13. And accusations that Diddy abused him during that time.
Which Bieber's team addressed recently, right? What did they say exactly?
It's very carefully worded. They clarified Justin is not one of Diddy's victims, but they strongly hinted that other people were genuinely harmed and kind of warned that focusing just on Diddy distracts from getting justice for those actual victims.
Carefully worded is right. But you see why fans are worried, right? Connecting it to Bieber's sometimes erratic behavior online, wondering what he might have seen back then.
Absolutely. And there's that old Jimmy Kimmel clip floating around too. Diddy joking about letting Justin drive his Lamborghini, have access to his house.
Yeah, and then he says something like, Justin knows better than to talk about what he does with Big Brother Puff on TV.
Watching it now, it's just incredibly creepy in hindsight. Really unsettling.
Okay, another big name that popped up. Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Yeah, that one feels significant, given his status. A major religious figure.
And the material says he's actually named in one of the federal lawsuits against Diddy, the one by that producer, Lil Rod.
Correct. Lil Rod worked with Diddy. And the allegation is basically that Diddy planned to use his relationship with T.D. Jakes to, like, rehab his public image after Cassie's lawsuit hit.
Okay, wait. This sounds familiar. Didn't Cat Williams say something like this ages ago?
Exactly. It's wild. Cat Williams called it nearly a year ago. Said Jakes would go down with Diddy, called him a hypocrite. Yeah. And the reports are noting how those claims seem to be, quote, gradually being validated now by this lawsuit.
Wow. So what does Lil Rod's suit actually allege about Jakes?
It reportedly claims Diddy used Jakes, names Jakes as an accomplice, alleges Jakes used his religious position to boost his own rep, maybe helped Diddy get access to new potential victims, and tried to use his church, the Potter's House, to help Diddy's image repair.
Has Jakes responded?
Well, he's publicly criticized Diddy, tried to distance himself, but the timing of something else is, well, it's raising eyebrows. Reports say Jakes resigned as head pastor of his megachurch just days after the news broke that Diddy had accepted a plea deal.
Even though Diddy later rejected it, Jakes resigned right after the news of the accepted deal came out.
That's the timeline reported, which, yeah, interesting timing.
And Jakes has tried to explain being at Diddy's parties?
Yeah, framed it as ministry outreach, but reports say, quote, nobody is believing it anymore. He apparently said something about dealing with people in prison ministries, murders, rapists, and, weirdly, kilts. maybe meant killers.
Kilts. Odd.
Super odd phrasing, but that's what's cited. He says it's ministry, but given everything else, it's not playing well for a lot of people.
Okay, back to that jury list real quick. Michael B. Jordan, Kid Cudi, we mentioned them, but there were specific allegations linked to them from Cassie's lawsuit, right? Reported by USA Today.
Yeah, the Diddy allegedly threatened Michael B. Jordan just for dating Cassie and threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car.
Blow up his car, jeez. That paints a picture of alleged control and intimidation, doesn't it?
And then there's Jamie Foxx. A lot of chatter online about him connecting his serious health scare last year to Diddy.
Right, the rumors that Diddy might have somehow been involved, maybe poisoned him. Is there anything concrete there?
Nothing proven, mostly online speculation. But it got a huge boost from Fox himself in his Netflix special, talking about his near-death experience after a brain bleed and stroke.
Yeah, I saw that quote. He said he thought he saw the devil, then said, or was that Puffy? Kind of played it off as a joke, but still.
Still pretty chilling to put Combs in that context, right? Especially, and Joe Rogan talked about it. And there are reports, again, just reports of audience claims that Fox told people at a comedy show that Diddy was responsible and that Fox called the FBI on him.
Okay, so that's third-hand audience claims, but it's definitely fueling the fire online.
Absolutely part of the conversation, yeah.
And what about the other music titans, like Jay-Z, Kanye?
Conspicuously silent, according to the reports. Jay-Z, anyway. Kanye, the material notes, seems to still be backing Puff. And remember, Kanye was on that jury list too.
Right. Interesting lack of comment from some corners.
You know, stepping back, some of the sources point out these broader patterns or maybe theories that seem to pop up around huge trials like this one.
Like what?
Like the idea that key witnesses sometimes disappear. As the trial gets closer, people who could really hurt the defendant.
Like that male escort who testified and then reportedly vanished?
Exactly. The reports compare it to the Tory Lanez case, where a bodyguard went missing too. It's presented as this like unfortunate but maybe predictable thing that happens. Makes you wonder.
And what about that online rumor that Diddy just lost his protection? That's why this is all coming out now.
Yeah, that's a big one circulating. The idea that he had some kind of powerful shield, and it's gone now.
Which ties into that whole theory about Diageo, the liquor giant, right? He sued them for racial discrimination over Ciroc and De Leon vodka.
Right. Claimed they didn't market his urban brands, as well as, say, George Clooney's tequila. They settled that suit.
When did they settle?
Out of court, January 2024. Ended a massive 17-year business relationship they'd had since 2007.
Okay, wait, look at the timing. They settle in January 2024.
And the feds raid Diddy's homes in March 2024, just 2 months later.
Whoa.
So the reports raised the question, could Diageo have been providing some kind of, corporate insulation or protection for all those years? And did they decide to cut him loose completely after the lawsuit and settlement, leaving him exposed?
And didn't the report mention the Diageo CEO has an intelligence background?
Yeah, former intelligence officer. It's just flagged as a detail. The reports frame it all as maybe a strange coincidence or just odd timing, not accusing Diageo of anything, but just pointing out the sequence.
It really does sound like something out of a thriller novel, but it's just the timeline.
And there's another strange thread online mentioned in the materials. This question people are asking about pneumonia.
Pneumonia? What's that about?
It connects back to Kim Porter, Diddy's ex, mother of some of his children. She died fairly young from pneumonia. And the theory connects her death to Jamie Foxx's mysterious illness, asking if there's some kind of pattern.
So people are actually asking online, why are so many people connected to this situation getting pneumonia?
Exactly. The reports cite those online discussions directly. Where have you ever seen this many cases associated with one situation?
It's a dark theory for sure, but it's definitely part of the narrative swirling around this case.
Okay, so finally, what about the defense? How are they actually planning to fight this in court? Their opening statements were wow.
Pretty telling, yeah. They actually admitted Diddy committed domestic violence.
They admitted it in federal court when he's charged with trafficking and racketeering. That seems bold.
Extremely bold. But the strategy seems to be concede the domestic violence, which might be hard to deny anyway, but argue strongly that it doesn't equal federal sex trafficking or racketeering.
So admit he was a bad boyfriend, but not a federal criminal mastermind, essentially. They reportedly said his conduct is indefensible, even called him maybe a deviant, but argued that doesn't legally make him guilty of these specific charges.
Okay. And what about the accusers?
Classic defense move there. They're reportedly arguing the women who filed civil suits are just motivated by money by greed.
Trying to paint them as gold diggers.
Right. Which, as the reports note, is risky. Jurors might see that as just attacking the victims all over again. Could really backfire.
And then the prosecution, what's their angle?
Painting him as an absolute monster, basically. Someone who used drugs, threats, money, power to control people. Reports mention them saying he brandished guns during these alleged freak-offs.
Freak-offs, okay.
Ultimately, you look at all this material, and it feels like we're getting a peek behind a very dark curtain in Hollywood. The reports talk about a filthy world behind the fame, alleged abuse, violation, people being discarded. There's even suggestion that maybe addiction, like to MDMA, contributed to his alleged behavior.
Man, it's just an avalanche, isn't it? The sheer number of accusations, all these huge celebrity names getting pulled in, even tangentially, the weird details like witnesses disappearing, the corporate theories, the strange illnesses. It's so much bigger and messier than just one guy on trial.
It really feels like peeling back layers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Seeing something much grittier than the usual celebrity gloss.
Absolutely. And with everything swirling around, all these connections, these theories, the incredibly high stakes, you have to ask yourself, right, is this just one super famous person finally getting called out, maybe even taking the fall for a system that protected people like him for years? Or are we actually seeing the start of something bigger, like a real purge, a major reckoning hitting Hollywood? What do you think is really going on here?